From childhood, I knew the man I would marry would not be the crown prince. Rather, whoever I married would become the crown prince. Alas, in my past life, I was deceived by the words "take Jiao as your wife and keep her in a golden chamber," which clouded my judgment. I ended up as a deposed empress, confined to the cold palace for 10 years. Fortunately, I have been reborn. Watching Lu Shi still carefully currying favor with everyone, I smiled. For our Jiao to marry him is already him, Lu Rong, climbing above his station. And now he dares to make my Jiao a concubine? This Empress Dowager will not let her off. I watched my mother rage and curse, feeling somewhat dazed. This scene, both familiar and strange. It seemed like something that happened decades ago, when I was young. My uncle, the emperor, sought to choose the finest husband for me. My mother casually suggested, then let Jiao marry the crown prince. Alas, the crown prince Lu Rong's mother, consortly, declared I could only be a concubine. They provoked us with their insolence, unaware that their son's position as crown prince would be short-lived. For it was not that I, Chen Jiao, married the crown prince. Whoever I married would become crown prince. My mother was the reigning princess, the Empress Dowager's own daughter, the emperor's elder sister. I had an emperor as my maternal grandfather, an emperor as my uncle, and a future emperor as my husband. My favor within the palace surpassed that of any imperial prince. In my past life, after being humiliated by Li Ji, my mother immediately turned to support another prince's ascension. At that time, the unremarkable Lu Ji spoke to my mother with unwavering resolve: if Sister Jiao marries Jir, Jir will build a palace of gold to hide her away. I believed this golden chamber was a testament to his profound affection. Only later did I realize it was not love, but a cage forged for my confinement. Leveraging my mother's influence and scheming, he deposed Crown Prince Lu Rong. Once he seized the throne, he turned his sights on my Qin clan, purging the imperial in-laws. He allowed his favored dancer to frame me, ultimately deposing me and confining me to Changmen Palace until my death. I believed I would be reincarnated bearing hatred for him. Yet my soul, weighed down by purple qi yet denied a peaceful death, could not transmigrate. My spirit drifted within the palace walls. I watched Lu Che, favor one woman after another. Yet I no longer harbored hatred toward them. My sole resentment remained fixed on Lu Che. If given a second chance, I would make Lu Che understand, without me, Chen Jiao, he would never have ascended the throne. When I awoke again, gazing at the ornate canopy of my boudoir, my hands still as youthful as before marriage, I knew beyond doubt that I had truly been reborn. My maid, Xiaoyu, teased me, "Miss, you're mesmerized by your own beauty. Truly, Xiaoyu has never seen a woman more lovely than you. But you must meet the crown prince shortly, don't be late." The crown prince? It's a pity Lu Rong has a mother as dim-witted as a pig. His time as crown prince won't last long. My target isn't Lu Rong, but I can make use of him as a tool. I waited for mother on the path she must take. When mother saw me, the anger on her face instantly melted into a smile. "What are you doing standing here, Jiao? It's windy here. Be careful not to catch a chill." "I just felt the chill and worried about you, mother, so I brought you this cloak." Mother wrapped herself in the cloak, her smile growing warmer. She took my hand, her eyes brimming with relief. "Jiao is so thoughtful. It's just a pity some people are blind." Mentioning Lu Rong and his mother, a cold glint flashed in mother's eyes. She truly seemed enraged. "Why grieve so, mother? Those who are useless. Simply remove them." Mother paused, then nodded with satisfaction. "Jiao is right. That is the royal way. Those who are useless have no place to stay." I smiled and nodded, "But mother, hold off on taking action. I have other plans for them." After my death, I watched Lu Che govern day after day and learned a method to eliminate enemies. Let them fight among themselves. "Why, Jiao, can't you let go of Lu Rong?" Mother frowned at me. I nestled into her embrace again, acting spoiled as I once did. "Mother, what are you saying? How could I possibly care for them? Jiao merely wants to make them regret it in her own way." By them, I meant everyone who had ever wronged Chen Jiao. But mother thought I referred only to Lu Rong and his mother. My child has grown. Then let A Jiao use that mother and son as practice. Mother nodded indifferently, then took me to the Empress Dowager's chambers. Though past 40, the Empress Dowager maintained her beauty through careful preservation. Spotting me, she beckoned immediately, "Jiao Jiao, come to your imperial grandmother." I hurried over and sat beside her, coaxing affection. The Empress Dowager pinched my cheek and laughed. "A Jiao is already a young lady, yet she still loves to act so spoiled. Speaking of which, how are the marriage arrangements for A Jiao progressing?" At this mention, Mother's expression immediately darkened as she spoke of Lady Li. Upon hearing this, the Empress Dowager was also filled with fury. "Bring Li Ji here. Have her kneel at the palace gate." Just like in my past life, when Mother and I emerged, Li Ji had been kneeling for ages, her face already pale. Mother snorted coldly and pulled me away by the hand. Having grown up under the Empress Dowager's care, her affection for me was known to all. Only that brainless Li Ji failed to take it seriously. Mother and I strolled through the imperial garden for a while. Just as we were about to leave, we spotted a mother and son standing not far away. Wang Ji and Lu Ji. Mother's footsteps halted. "Lu Ji. What do you think of Lu Ji, A Jiao?" I knew Mother was weighing whether Lu Ji was suitable. By rights, today wasn't a day off, and Lu Ji should have been studying. Yet here he stood. Clearly, he was deliberately waiting here, hoping to secure a prosperous future through me. But this time around, I refused to let them have their way. "Mother, the sun is so hot. I don't want to go home. Let's stay at grandmother's palace tonight and return to the mansion tomorrow." Mother doted on me. Hearing my whining, she agreed without a second thought, turning to lead me back. I glanced over my shoulder. Sure enough, both Wang Ji and Lu Ji wore displeased expressions. The Empress Dowager was delighted by my overnight stay. I casually mentioned seeing the two of them in the imperial garden. I knew the Empress Dowager was sharp-minded. She would understand immediately upon hearing this. Sure enough, she immediately issued orders. "Consort Wang Ji, for privately taking the crown prince out to play, shall have her stipend deducted for half a year and be confined to her quarters for a month to reflect on her misconduct." As for me, I had someone casually inform Consort Li of Consort Wang's intentions. Once the seeds of suspicion were sown, all I needed to do was fan the flames a little. The rest would be simply watching the show unfold. Consort Wang's intentions were plain as day. Knowing her son neither held the legitimate heir status nor enjoyed the favor of the Empress or Empress Dowager, she sought to leverage my influence to advance her position. A month later, as Mother and I returned from paying respects to the Empress Dowager, Consort Wang approached us directly. I knew the wind was about to shift. "Greetings, Princess Guantao." Consort Wang feigned an invitation for Mother to visit the palace for a brief stay, which Mother gladly accepted. Sure enough, upon entering, I spotted Lu Ji practicing swordsmanship in the courtyard. The 10th prince truly applies himself diligently. "I shall speak well of him to His Majesty in the future," my mother remarked casually. Consort Wang's smile grew even more unrestrained, and her demeanor toward my mother became increasingly deferential. My mother summoned Lu Ji before her. "Jir, what if I were to betroth your elder sister, A Jiao, to you?" Lu Ji beamed with delight. "Thank you, Auntie. If Sister A Jiao marries Jir, I'll build her a palace of gold and hide her away." Hearing this, Mother covered her mouth and chuckled softly. "You're quite the character, aren't you? What do you think, A Jiao?" Lu Ji's eyes met mine with the same hopeful gaze he'd held in my past life. Alas, I remained utterly unmoved. I smiled innocently. A golden chamber? To hide A Jiao away in a golden chamber, never to see the light of day? Like the cold palace? At these words, Mother's smile vanished. She gave Lu Ji a serious look and dropped the subject. "Of course not," Consort Wang hurriedly interjected, smoothing things over. "A Jiao is so beautiful, how could she ever be hidden away?" The child was just joking. I feigned innocence. If that's the case, does treat A Jiao well also count as playful banter? Under their flustered gazes, Mother turned cold and led me away. I gave Xiaoyu a subtle nod. She understood immediately and turned toward Lady Li's chambers. That night, news reached me. Princess Li stormed into Lady Wang's quarters, berating and humiliating her. Rumor has it she made Lady Wang kneel all night. At that moment, I was in the Empress Dowager's chambers, playing chess with her. My dear, have you considered what sort of man you wish to marry? I shook my head. Jiao feared that after marriage, her imperial grandmother, emperor uncle, and mother would no longer cherish her. She dreaded her husband mistreating her and was terrified of being confined forever within the palace walls. Nonsense. How could your mother not love you? Mother gave me a playful glare. Besides, if anyone wrongs our Jiao, I won't let them off. Your imperial grandmother and imperial uncle wouldn't let him get away with it either. The Empress Dowager nodded with a smile, ruffling my hair. A Jiao is a pearl. How could she be confined to the depths of the palace? She must become someone who astonishes the world. Your imperial grandmother will protect our A Jiao for her entire life. Hearing this, I buried my face in the Empress Dowager's embrace to hide my tears. In my past life, until her very death, the Empress Dowager's heart was always with me. After a while, I pouted and said, Grandmother, is Uncle Emperor preparing for the autumn hunt? A Jiao wants to go too. Unsurprisingly, the Empress Dowager nodded in agreement and ordered the palace to hastily prepare the most splendid riding attire for me. In the days that followed, it was said that Consort Li constantly sought out Consort Wang to pick fights. Consort Wang endured every one of them. It seemed Consort Li had learned her lesson well from kneeling before the Empress Dowager's palace that day. Alas, these lessons were still insufficient for them. We waited until the autumn hunt. Uncle Emperor personally selected several princes to accompany him. As expected, Lu Xi was not among them. Lu Rong basked in triumph, his smugness starkly contrasting with Lu Xi's despondency. But how could this be? If these two weren't on equal footing, how could they compete? I walked over to Lu Xi with a smile, signaling a servant to hand him a bow and arrows. Xi, could you hunt a little rabbit for me? The emperor glanced in our direction. Does Ajiao like little rabbits? I shall hunt one for you. No, no. Ajiao wants uncle to hunt something grand, something that shows uncle's majestic might. Leave the rabbits to Aji. Very well then. Xi'er, mount up and ride with me. Lu Xi beamed, snatching the bow and swiftly mounting his horse. Not far away, I saw Consort Wang's face break into a faint smile, while Consort Li beside her wore a face dark and ominous. I raised my eyebrows with unrestrained amusement. True, their sons were princes. But I, Qin Ajiao, was also heaven's favored daughter, born of royal blood. A single word from me could sway my uncle the emperor's thoughts. While strengthening my own position, I made Lu Rong feel threatened and gave Lu Xi a glimmer of hope. This way, the real show could finally begin. Sure enough, just before departure, I spotted Consort Li beckoning Lu Rong aside and whispering something to him. I signaled toward the shadows of the woods. Watching the leaves there sway rhythmically a few times, I smiled. If all goes well, tonight won't be too dull. I hope Crown Prince Lu Rong doesn't disappoint me. Sure enough, that night, the imperial physicians hurriedly gathered. Prince Lu Xi had fallen from his horse. When I arrived, I saw guards kneeling everywhere. Consort Wang stood sobbing beside the emperor's uncle. The emperor's uncle looked grim, while the Empress Dowager raged uncontrollably. What on earth happened? How could the 10th prince fall from his horse? And those guards? Couldn't you protect your master? The guards, terrified, desperately cowed out for mercy. Your servant is guilty. The 10th prince said he wished to hunt rabbits deep in the woods. Fearing we might startle the rabbits, he forbade us from approaching. It was my carelessness. I beg the emperor's forgiveness. Hearing this, the emperor's expression softened considerably. He waved his hand, dismissing the punishment. Just then, Lu Xi slowly regained consciousness, looking around in a daze. Xi'er, how are you? Consort Wang threw herself forward without regard for her dignity, clutching his hand and weeping. How could you have fallen from your horse? Tell the truth, your father will see justice done for you. True to her background in palace intrigue, she sought to implicate others with just a few words. Lu Xi lowered his gaze slightly, then pointed at Lu Rong. It was Crown Prince brother. My horse was struck by something, causing it to bolt. That's why I fell. And at that moment, only the Crown Prince was nearby. You're lying. Before Lu Rong could speak, Consort Li stepped forward and roared, "How could the crown prince do such a thing? You're clearly making this up." With both sides stubbornly insisting on their versions, a full-blown argument seemed imminent. The emperor's uncle immediately intervened. "This matter will be thoroughly investigated. Until the truth is clear, no further accusations shall be made." The last words were directed at Consort Wang and Lu Ji. Clearly, the emperor sought to minimize the incident. After all, one was his cherished crown prince, the other a son he held little affection for. Both Consort Wang and Lu Ji looked displeased, but the emperor's command was final. They could only bow and comply. Seeing everyone about to let the matter drop, I stepped forward and asked innocently, "Did Aji get hurt hunting a little rabbit for me?" Lu Ji nodded and immediately had the rabbit brought in. The snow-white little rabbit looked utterly adorable. I cradled it in my arms. "Thank you, Aji. It's just a shame Ah Jiao hurt you. It's not Jiao's fault. As long as she likes it." I stroked the rabbit, then looked up at my emperor uncle with a pout. "Uncle." Sure enough, my emperor uncle's heart melted instantly. "Jiao Jiao and Ji get along well?" I held up the little rabbit. Ji gave Jiao a rabbit. "Jiao likes Ji." His Imperial Majesty's face broke into a broad smile. "I've given Jiao so many things, why hasn't she ever said she likes me?" I clutched the rabbit and threw myself into his embrace. "Jiao likes Ji, but she likes His Imperial Majesty the most." His Imperial Majesty ruffled my hair, then turned his gaze back to Lu Ji, his expression softening considerably. "I shall investigate this matter thoroughly. Jir has been injured today and must rest well. The imperial physicians must attend to him diligently." With that, the emperor rose and turned to Lu Rong, his tone cool. "As crown prince and elder brother, you stood by idly while your younger brother fell from his horse. Return to your quarters for half a month of reflection and copy the expanded words of wisdom 3 times. "Yes, your majesty." "Your servant obeys." Lu Rong and Consort Li's faces paled. Though they felt resentful, they could only comply. Just before leaving, the emperor suddenly paused as if remembering something. "Ah, and Jir's name is unsuitable. Change it. From now on, he shall be called Lu Che. Ji means pig." Lu Ji had long disliked his name, but never found an opportunity to change it. Yet because of me, the emperor, his uncle, granted him a new name. Lu Che, ignoring his injuries, struggled to rise and express his gratitude. Beside him, Lu Rong clenched his fists so tightly the veins on his hands stood out. After taking in each person's expression, I followed Mother out. After everyone had retired for the night, I quietly opened the window. Gazing at the bright moonlight outside, I tapped the window 3 times. A figure immediately scrambled down from the roof. "Speak. What happened today?" The man knelt respectfully. The crown prince had the intent, but not the courage. He threw a small pebble, but it missed the horse and was witnessed by the 10th prince. So I seized the opportunity to strike the horse with a flying needle. "Did you secure evidence?" "Rest assured, miss." While everyone was attending to the 10th prince, I retrieved and removed the darts. I waved the shadow guard away. Today's events had been entirely satisfactory. Through this incident, Consort Li would finally recognize her true adversary. Then I need only balance their power and wait for them to tear each other apart. Court officials excel at flattering the powerful and trampling the weak. Lu Che's favor has grown visibly because of me. Thus, courtiers flock to pay homage to consorts young. Meanwhile, Consort Li's once bustling palace grows increasingly desolate. Finally seeing reason, Consort Li personally brought gifts to pay her respects when my mother and I entered the palace. Mother gave a cold laugh. "Tell that Consort Li that this princess lacks nothing. Her offerings hold no interest for me." As the palace attendants withdrew, I let out a deliberately loud, coquettish laugh. "Consort Wang is quite beautiful. Uncle Emperor favors her greatly. Consort Li, however, is another matter. Uncle Emperor is already losing interest in her." My voice was neither loud nor soft, perfectly audible to Princess Li outside the hall. I hated Lu Che, but I also disliked Consort Wang. Had she not instigated it, the phrase "hiding a mistress in a golden chamber" would never have emerged. Since she and Lu Che were one and the same, she shouldn't blame me for taking my frustration out on her. Sure enough, within half a month, dire news spread through the harem. Consort Wang's medicinal broth had been laced with poison. Half an hour later, her face began to blush and ulcerate. Her once beautiful features became horrifyingly disfigured. Rumors spread that the affliction was contagious, so no one dared enter Lady Wang's palace, not even the imperial physicians, who approached with extreme caution. After 3 days of treatment, the itching finally subsided. But Lady Wang's beauty was irrevocably diminished. The investigation later revealed a lowly imperial concubine was responsible. The imperial concubine was beaten to death, while Consort Li remained unharmed. As for me, who had merely offered a passing suggestion, I remained deeply hidden behind the scenes. I thought the matter would end there, but unexpectedly, another half-month passed. Emperor Liu Che, who had been able to walk, collapsed the moment his feet touched the ground. His entire lower body went limp. The imperial physicians rushed to treat him, but ultimately found no solution. Finally, they summoned the long-retired master physician Wang. After acupuncture treatment, Liu Che barely recovered, though his walking would never regain its former ease. As for riding and archery, they were out of the question. Timing my visit perfectly, I arrived at Liu Che's bedchamber carrying a small food box. Since his injury, I'd occasionally come by, feigning concern. But this time, Liu Che turned his face away. I'm nothing but a cripple now. Ajiao should stop associating with me. I sneered inwardly, yet maintained an innocent, romantic expression. Why would you say that, ache? In Ajiao's heart, you're the best. Besides, we grew up together. She wouldn't abandon you. Hearing this, Liu Che feigned hesitation, but the eldest princess. Mother remains somewhat displeased. Rest assured, Ajiao will speak for you. Only, she must leave the palace soon and won't be able to visit often. A carrot followed by a stick. The rest was left for Liu Che to figure out himself. Now that Consort Wang has fallen out of favor, she must be as frantic as an ant on a hot skillet. Liu Che has written me several letters about this. I either don't reply at all, or feign reluctance with a brief, perfunctory response. Since I don't want to go to the palace, I stay at the mansion and have people discuss the people's plight outside. In my previous life, I paid little heed to the affairs of the Han Empire before my death. I vaguely recall that early this year, many disaster-stricken refugees fled their homes. Due to poor governance, it nearly sparked a major crisis. Sure enough, not long after, I received a report from my subordinates. This year's drought has left many households with no harvest. They have fled to the capital seeking survival. Yet, with no one to aid them, they have now gathered in a large, restless mass. But it hasn't yet become a threat, nor reached the emperor's ears. I breathed a sigh of relief. Somehow, the events of this life seemed to diverge slightly from my previous one. The famine that should have struck at the start of the year had only arrived now, nearly 9 months later. But the crisis had come nonetheless, and this was the opportunity I'd been waiting for. I immediately retrieved the funds I'd raised by selling long idle gold, silver, and jewels. In my name, I set up tents to distribute soup. If anyone else had so blatantly bought public favor, the emperor would surely have questioned it. Except me. It wasn't arrogance, but rather my deep understanding of how much my uncle the emperor and the empress dowager cherished me. Upon hearing of this, they would only praise, my precious child has grown up. Within half a month, my name echoed throughout the capital. Everyone knew. Princess Ajiao, daughter of the Duke of Qin, is a bodhisattva reborn, an immortal descended from heaven. When word reached the palace, unsurprisingly, my uncle the emperor praised this act, bestowing upon me 1,000 taels of silver and a chest of jewels. I turned around and used this gift to build a shelter for the displaced. I openly proclaimed it was my uncle the emperor's gift. Naive, straightforward, sweetly innocent, never deliberately courting favor. My imperial uncle cherished me all the more for it, often sighing to my mother, I must reserve the finest things for my precious Jiao. My mother would smile and tell me, wait for your imperial uncle to choose an emperor husband for you. Then, my precious Jiao, you shall be the most honored woman in the great Han. I said nothing. Is the best the Han dynasty has to offer the position of empress? But I want more. I bestowed countless favors, drawing people closer while gradually cultivating my own loyal followers. Just like this day, shortly after I stepped outside, someone knelt before me with a thud. This humble servant, Zhang Jing, bows in gratitude for the lady's life-saving grace. I am willing to serve the princess faithfully. The man before me appeared to be around 30, his back straight even as he knelt. He looked like a trained fighter. What can you do for me? My wife and children nearly starved to death. Thank you for feeding us, miss. I'm not talented, but I have strength and have trained in martial arts since childhood. My interest piqued, I immediately had my shadow guard spar with him. My shadow guards, trained since childhood, found themselves evenly matched against him. I promptly tossed him 20 taels of silver. Take this money to provide for your wife and children. Await my further orders. Many hidden talents lurk among the common folk, and thus my influence quietly expanded. Soon, the Empress Dowager's birthday approached. Lu Che must be growing restless. Just then, my palace informant delivered news. A new maid had appeared at Lu Che's side. Her surname was Wei, her name Zifu. Hearing that name again stirred not a ripple in my heart. Once, I had hated her intensely. In status, in affection, she fell short of me in every way. Yet she understood Lu Che. Using a different approach from my own, flamboyant pampering, she won his partial favor with tear-filled eyes. She also used a crude trick to frame me for practicing witchcraft, leading to my dismissal and confinement in the cold palace. Until my soul was imprisoned within the palace walls. I watched as Wei Zifu gradually fell into Lu Che's disfavor, ultimately meeting a fate even more miserable than mine. While I felt a sense of satisfaction, my heart was also filled with sorrow. Wasn't this exactly what had happened to me? I loved Lu Che with all my heart, yet this was my reward. Did Lu Che truly love Wei Zifu? Hardly. Wei Zifu came from humble origins, constantly currying favor. Before her, Lu Che was nothing but a sovereign. But I, Chen Ajiao, was heaven's favored daughter. I could never master those seductive wiles. And I knew how pitiful the young Lu Ji had once been. That's why whenever Lu Che saw me, he was reminded of his younger self. In the end, the only person this man truly loved was himself. So when Wei Zifu falsely accused me of using witchcraft, the one who orchestrated this entire situation was actually Lu Che. Both of us were merely his pawns. Reflecting on the past, I let out a cold laugh. I placed the letter over the candle flame, watching it burn away. My spirit had followed Lu Che for decades. Beyond mastering his imperial schemes, I had inherited his ruthless, heartless legacy. In my past life, all claimed Chen Ajiao was defeated by love. Therefore, I severed all emotional ties. This lifetime, let us see who emerges victorious. The next day, I submitted a memorial to the palace to pay my respects, then carried a food box to see Lu Che. Wei Zifu was right beside him. Lu Che was teaching her to read. Seeing me arrive, he immediately dismissed Wei Zifu. Jiao, you've finally come. I thought you'd never visit me again. I refused to pretend any longer, my face cold as I demanded, who was that woman earlier? She's a new maid I took in. Her background is tragic, but her dancing is exquisite. Would you like to see her, Jiao? No need. You watch her yourself. I shook off his hand and turned to leave. Lu Che hurriedly stepped in front of me. Jiao, are you angry with me? I just missed you so much. Seeing her dance reminds me of you. Lu Che gazed at me with deep affection, reaching out to take my hand, only for me to dodge him. Dance? What do you take me, Chen Jiao, for? A dancing girl to entertain you? Jiao, that's not what I meant. Lu Che tried desperately to explain. I swept my sleeve aside and left without giving him a chance. His move was well played. He wanted to use Wei Zifu to provoke me, make me realize my feelings, and beg my mother to grant our union. My doting mother would naturally eliminate Wei Zifu and then elevate him to crown prince. Alas, I no longer love him, I only hate him. With the Empress Dowager's birthday less than 10 days away, she had me stay in the palace to keep her company. Jiao, you seem to have lost weight lately? The Empress Dowager tenderly stroked my cheek. The Emperor, playing chess in her chambers, also turned to me. You have lost weight, Jiao. Is something troubling you? Tell your Emperor. I snorted, feigning indignation. It's He. Lately, he's been with this exceptionally beautiful dancer. He barely pays Jiao any mind anymore. Uncle, does that mean Jiao is less than a dancer? Sure enough, my uncle the emperor turned ashen. What nonsense. Jiao is my most precious pearl. A mere dancer doesn't even measure up to a strand of Jiao's hair. Heir has overstepped. I'll reprimand him for you. Satisfied, I devoured several pastries. This amused both the Empress Dowager and my uncle the Emperor so much that they rewarded me with the imperial pastry chef. After taking my leave, I passed through the main street and saw Wei Zifu waiting. Just like in my previous life, she stood at a distance. Upon seeing me approach, she immediately bowed respectfully. Simply to make her presence known to me. Greetings, young lady. Her voice was delicate and tender, the kind that instantly evokes a man's protective instincts. Alas, in this lifetime, I didn't even pause my steps, walking straight past her. When I no longer loved Luce, Wei Zifu was but an ant I could crush at any moment. Who would pause for an ant? Yet I hadn't anticipated that before I could deal with Wei Zifu, the Empress Dowager, who had always cherished me, would act first. According to those in the Dowager's palace, she summoned Lu Che and consort Wang. The Dowager asked, "Chair, do you love Jiao?" "Naturally, my son. Weijia and I grew up together, our bond runs deep." "Is that so? Yet I hear you've recently taken in a beautiful new maid, even teaching her to read and write." No sooner had the Empress Dowager finished speaking than Wei Zifu was dragged in, bound and gagged. She could only gaze at Lu Che with pitiful eyes, pleading for his rescue. Alas, Emperor Che himself was in dire straits at that moment. "Che, I ask you, do you choose Jiao, or this little maid?" Emperor Che glanced at Wei Zifu, then knelt firmly. "Your Majesty, I naturally choose Jiao." The Empress Dowager smiled with satisfaction. "Very well. Guards, drag this seductress who bewitches her master out and beat her to death with clubs." It is said Wei Zifu's death screams echoed throughout the entire palace. At the time, Lu Che believed the Empress Dowager's favor toward him would be satisfied by having Wei Zifu beaten to death, and that he would then be granted a marriage to her. Alas, he underestimated me, the heaven-blessed maiden, the royal bloodline's pride. The matter of Jiao's husband is entirely up to her preference. If she dislikes you, this palace will not arrange a marriage for you. But should you anger Jiao, do not blame this palace for showing no mercy. After all, Ronger is far more suited to Jiao than you are. Lu Che's face paled instantly. After hearing all this, a faint warmth stirred within my heart, frozen for decades. The Empress Dowager, my uncle the Emperor, and my mother. They were the dearest people in this world to me. Time flew by, and soon it was the Empress Dowager's birthday. The Emperor, ever filial, planned a grand celebration. Everyone poured their hearts into preparing gifts. And I, under the Empress Dowager's expectant gaze, stepped forward first, presenting a precious, large night pearl. This pearl had been given to me by a talented stranger who happened to be in need during the charity rice distribution, as a token of gratitude. The Empress Dowager was delighted. She held me close, smiling so broadly her lips couldn't close, calling out repeatedly, "My precious child." My uncle, the Emperor, even had me seated beside him for the banquet. My elevated status was plain for all to see. Soon, the Crown Prince's gift was presented, a case-eye embroidery depicting 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. From afar, it shimmered with radiant brilliance. "Bring it closer for this Empress Dowager to examine." The palace attendants promptly unfolded the embroidery. The scene was astonishingly lifelike, especially the soaring phoenix towering majestically above the other birds. The Empress Dowager appeared thoroughly pleased. "Very well, very well. It shall be rewarded." The Empress Dowager extended her hand to trace the stitches carefully, but suddenly paused at the phoenix's eye, her expression darkening. I looked over curiously and saw red liquid slowly trickling from the phoenix's eye. Absurd! What is this? The Empress Dowager angrily flung the piece to the ground. The Emperor, now aware of the truth, looked even more grim. The assembled courtiers trembled, kneeling in a heap across the hall. It was common knowledge that the Empress Dowager suffered from an eye ailment. How dare the Crown Prince present such an ill-omened gift? "Grandmother, Please calm your anger. This must be some misunderstanding. The crown prince kowtowed repeatedly, begging for mercy. But the empress dowager was clearly enraged. With a sweeping gesture of her hand, she banished consort Li to the cold palace. Lady Li's wails faded into the distance. I clearly saw a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing at the corners of Lu Che's lips as he knelt on the floor. So this was his counterattack. I suppressed the flicker of guilt I felt toward the empress dowager. My intervention in this storm and the future political landscape of the capital would inevitably claim countless lives. But I would not back down. Decades in the cold palace and beyond had long since stripped away all my innocence and kindness, leaving only a heart colder and harder than any emperor's. Since Lu Che had made his move, I privately instructed Chen's retainers to expose every sordid secret Lu Rong had concealed over the years. The emperor flew into a rage. 3 days later, an imperial edict was issued. Crown Prince Lu Rong, having shown disrespect to the Empress Dowager and lacking in virtue, is hereby stripped of his position as Crown Prince. He shall be infeft as Prince of Chen and depart for his fiefdom within 10 days. The position of Crown Prince was instantly vacant. In an instant, all the imperial princes fixed their eyes on this vacant seat. That night, I took Xiaoyu and walked towards the cold palace. Lady Li had shed all traces of her former haughtiness. Clad in coarse cloth garments, she appeared disheveled and unkempt. Upon seeing me, her eyes lit up. She immediately crawled forward and knelt before me. "Miss, I beg you to save me. Please let me out. I am the Crown Prince's mother. I cannot remain in the cold palace." "Indeed, but your son is no longer the Crown Prince." I recited the Emperor's edict to her, word for word. Princess Li's vision darkened, and she collapsed onto the ground, sobbing and muttering, "How could His Majesty and the Empress Dowager be so heartless? How could they be so heartless? Your imperial uncle's special permission to grant you the title of prince is already a great mercy. You should know the fate of deposed crown princes throughout history. This is my mercy toward Lu Rong. In my past life, he was not the one who truly brought about my demise. In this life, I shall spare his life. But Li Ji, I need to use you." The former crown prince made many enemies. On the journey to his fiefdom, whether he can preserve his life remains uncertain. Her sobbing abruptly ceased as Li Ji snapped back to reality. Kneeling on the ground, she bowed her head repeatedly until it bled. "Please save my son, I beg you. Please." I pulled out a dagger and tossed it before her. "The guilty must face their own justice. Go seek your own revenge." Li Ji froze for a moment, then grabbed the dagger. Her eyes went wild as she nodded fiercely. I glanced at her once before turning away. The night in the cold palace was eerily dark, punctuated by the occasional wails of a woman gone mad. Xiaoya shrank back in fear, her voice tinged with confusion. "Miss, how come you seem so familiar with the cold palace?" "Of course I'm familiar. Because I've been trapped in this prison for far too long. Everything I do now is to distance myself from this place." Lu Rong was about to leave the capital, and Consort Wang rushed to see my mother. I told mother not to receive her, and she agreed with a smile. After being turned away several times, Consort Wang grew impatient. After all, we weren't in the palace every day, and she couldn't leave the palace grounds. Seeing my indifference, Xiaoyu couldn't help but ask, "Miss, do you dislike the 10th prince? Do you like Lu Che? He has no power or influence, though he's ambitious. But among the princes, he's not the most outstanding. 10 Lu Che's combined wouldn't hold a candle to my weight as Chinajiao. Why would I like him?" I scoffed at myself. How foolish I'd been in my past life. Filled with fervor, I begged my mother to expend her energy and wealth to place Lu Che, the least remarkable among the princes, on the imperial throne. When he first ascended, I leveraged the connections my mother had given me to purge those from the previous court who defied him, eliminate spies throughout the harem, and step by step, help him secure his throne. And what did I gain in the end? A weakened Qin clan, humiliation at the hands of a dancer, and over a decade as a deposed empress confined to Changmen Palace. That very Changmen Palace, my mother's wedding gift to me. It became the prison where I languished until my death. "Lu Che, you've gone too far. If that's the case, I'll make Lu Che understand, without me, Chinajiao, he can accomplish nothing. Lost in my own thoughts, it was a long while before I heard Xiaoyu whisper softly, "If you dislike him, madam, you may dismiss him. Please. Don't be sad." I met her slightly worried gaze and gently pinched her cheek. In my past life, when I was undeniably implicated in witchcraft, Xiaoyu took all the blame without hesitation. She rushed before Lu Che and took her own life to protect me. But she was so foolish. How could a single life, or even two, change the cold, hard heart of an emperor? Thankfully, I've been given another chance. This lifetime, I will protect her with all I have. Pulling my thoughts back, I casually pinned a hairpin in my hair and replied slowly, "There's no rush to send Lu Che away. Because I intend to use him to accomplish the one thing I need most. The one thing that will ensure Chen Ajiao never again lives under anyone's control." That night, I slipped out of the palace. The next day, I summoned Zhang Jing to my residence. "You said you would serve me." Zhang Jing knelt immediately. "At your command, miss." "What if what I ask is treasonous, defying heaven's will?" Zhang Jing faltered slightly, then bowed his head, his voice firm. "You saved my family, lady. I will lay down my life for you, shedding blood and sweat." "Good." I handed Zhang Jing a piece of paper. "This is what I need you to do." Disbelief filled Zhang Jing's eyes, but in the end, he merely lit the paper with a firelighter, burned it, and then bowed his head heavily. "Your servant obeys." I watched the first snowfall outside and sighed. The new year was approaching, and everyone was bustling with anticipation. But after the festivities, the capital would surely be engulfed in bloodshed. The deposed Crown Prince Lu Rong had left the capital before the new year. A day later, a fire broke out in the cold palace. While everyone was busy putting out the flames, Consort Li escaped from within. Coincidentally, Consort Wang's palace lay close to the cold palace, so many attendants were diverted to the fire. Seizing this opening, Consort Li drew a dagger and stabbed Consort Wang directly. Over a dozen wounds, each deadly. By the time palace servants discovered her, Consort Wang had already breathed her last. Consort Li then threw herself against a pillar and died. The emperor's uncle merely glanced at her, ordered a grand burial, and departed. Imperial indifference was commonplace, especially toward concubines long fallen from favor. Yet Emperor Lu Che required some form of explanation. I presented him with a letter. He heeded my counsel, voluntarily observing 3 days of mourning before the memorial hall. All other matters were dismissed. The emperor was deeply satisfied, moved by this display of filial piety, and bestowed countless honors. Jiao, you remain the wisest, knowing how to employ such effective methods. As for the eldest princess, still unwilling to accept me? I sighed helplessly. My mother still wonders, after all, the emperor's uncle has so many sons. I caught the fleeting glint of murderous intent in Lu Che's eyes. I'll leave now. Take your time with the pastries, I'll bring more next time. Carrying the food box, I departed, watching Lu Che kneel alone inside with a cold smile. I hoped he wouldn't disappoint me. Spring had barely begun when the capital was shaken by upheaval. A grim report reached the court. The third prince, younger brother of the deposed Crown Prince Lu Rong, had suddenly perished in his residence. Rumor had it several naked women were present at the time. The third prince had died after bedding 3 women in one night. Less than a month later, the second prince vanished after falling from a cliff during a mountain excursion, his whereabouts unknown. With this, the deposed crown prince's lineage lost all possibility of revival. 3 months later, the Tujua tribes invaded from the south. The fifth prince was ordered to lead the army against them. Among his troops was a capable man named Zhang Jing, who swept through enemy ranks with the force of a single warrior holding the pass against 10,000, rising to fame. Yet amidst the chaos of battle, the fifth prince was struck down by an arrow. Another 3 months passed. The seventh prince, having aroused public fury by forcibly abducting a commoner's daughter, was assassinated on the streets during another outing. These successive blows caused the emperor's uncle to turn almost completely gray overnight. I sent every divine physician I had previously gathered into the palace without exception. Soon, the emperor's uncle's condition stabilized. The emperor's uncle earnestly pleaded with Master Xin Kong to emerge from seclusion. Yet by the time the invited master arrived, Xin Kong had already passed away. Thus, Xuankong's foremost disciple, Master Ziji, was summoned to the palace. After a series of divinations, Master Ziji sighed deeply. The phoenix constellation has yet to return to its rightful place. The heaven-mandated maiden has not descended among them. The emperor's uncle furrowed his brow and asked, "Master, please enlighten us." Blessed by the three sovereigns, the heaven-mandated maiden. These 8 simple words lingered in the emperor's uncle's mind until he suddenly realized, is Ajiao the heaven-mandated maiden? The master means. The 3 most revered figures of the Han dynasty, the emperor's uncle, the empress dowager, and my mother, immediately understood. I have an emperor as my maternal grandfather, an emperor as my maternal uncle, and my future husband will undoubtedly be an emperor. With the destiny of the 3 emperors upon me, I am unquestionably the heaven-mandated maiden. After consulting me, the emperor immediately issued an edict, betrothing me to Lu Che and designating him crown prince. While mother and the empress dowager discussed the marriage arrangements, I excused myself. Crossing the long avenue, I encountered a man clad in monk's robes. "Master Ziji, you must be weary. You flatter me. Were it not for the kindness you showed me all those years ago, I would never have attained my present position. I wonder if the night pearl still holds your affection?" Of course it does. As the wedding preparations progressed, mother summoned me. "Our Ajiao will soon be married." How deeply gratifying. "Mother, Ajiao wishes to become the most honored person in the land." Mother nodded with satisfaction. "You are heaven's favored daughter, the role of empress is yours to bear." I clasped mother's hand, looking at her earnestly. "Mother, what I mean is, I want the most honored person. More honored than anyone else. My precious child, the most honored person in the realm is His Majesty." Could it be? Mother's words trailed off abruptly. The smile at her lips faded. "Ajiao, have you lost your mind?" Ajiao wasn't mad. "Is being empress truly joyful? You still have to share the same man with others, feigning magnanimity, only to be banished to the cold palace by an imperial edict in the end. But if you bear a prince, the crown prince, and with us by his side, your child will surely ascend the throne. What you fear won't happen. You know full well the countless ways to ensure a woman in the harem remains childless." I calmly interrupted mother's words. She too came from the palace. She knew its dirty secrets better than I did. In my past life, I was empress for 10 years without bearing an heir. It was consort Wang and Lu Che who conspired together. I stated a certainty, and mother's hand trembled slightly. Finally, she managed only a few strained words. "Ajiao, that was your uncle." Hearing this, I exhaled in relief. Ajiao would never harm her uncle, but Lu Che. Seeing the slight pallor on my mother's face, I knew she understood my meaning. "Whatever Ajiao wishes to do, mother will aid you. But Ajiao must promise mother she will never harm your imperial grandmother or your uncle." "Is that acceptable?" "Agreed." That night, I dreamt of my past life. In the dream, I knelt on the ground, surrounded by people watching me. Some eyes held pity, others scorn, still others disgust. But the loathing in the eyes of the man above, clad in the dragon robe, ran deepest, as if one more glance at me would wound his very eyes. "My harem has no place for a venomous woman like you. Empress Qin, lacking virtue and manipulating witchcraft, is unworthy of her position. She is hereby deposed as commoner and confined to the Changmen Palace, never to leave until death." I gazed at the man before me, tears streaming down my face. "Lu Che, everyone said you were unfit to be emperor. I helped you become emperor. Everyone said I, Qin Ajiao, was born with the destiny of a phoenix. Only you said I was unworthy to be empress. Then I shall not be empress. And you shall not be emperor." Finally, the day of the grand wedding arrived. 10 miles of crimson wedding procession, a spectacle that shook the capital. Because of my prestige, the people lined the streets to welcome us. Countless citizens flocked to the National Temple to pray for my well-being. Seated in the bridal chamber, Lu Che stumbled in, drunk, his gaze unfocused as he looked at me. "Why did you lift your veil yourself, Ajiao?" "I'm not feeling well today. Your Highness, please retire elsewhere." Lu Che paused slightly, then smiled as he approached me. "Where does Ajiao feel unwell? Let me examine you." He took another step forward. Before he could touch me, a shadow guard shoved him out the door with a single palm strike. Who are you? How dare you intrude into the Crown Prince's residence? Guards! No need to call. Every corner of this residence is filled with my men. No one will heed your orders. I rose, poured myself a cup of wine, and splashed it directly before Lu Che. This cup of wine was meant for the Lu Ji who once cherished Chen Jiao, but you no longer deserve it. At my command, the shadow guard seized Lu Che and dragged him outside. Jiao, what do you mean? I still cherish you, Jiao. Guards! Before he could finish, I waved my hand. His mouth was sealed shut. Lu Che possessed formidable, deeply concealed abilities and was a naturally gifted ruler. Thus, in my previous life, the Han dynasty flourished under his governance, forging the backbone of the Han people. Alas, he is still young, his foundation unstable. He has crossed paths with me, one who has long mastered imperial intrigue, possesses deep-rooted power, and knows the future. All his confidants have already been replaced by my loyalists. The entire Crown Prince's residence is already filled with my people. The Crown Prince was granted 3 days leave for his wedding. 3 days later, I entered the woodshed and placed the meal before him. Dinner is served. Chen Jiao, have you been deceiving me from the start? You're deceiving the heir apparent. You're deceiving the sovereign. Lu Che's eyes flashed with suspicion as he flung the bowls and dishes to the ground. I remained unperturbed, merely observing him with leisurely composure. Soon, he regained his composure. Marry me, and you shall become empress. But why did you do this? I want a reason. I set down my teacup leisurely and looked up at him. Who said I want to be empress? Lu Che retorted angrily, if you won't be empress, then what do you want? Then he caught himself and scolded even more fiercely, absurd. Since ancient times, there's never been a woman who ruled. I smiled, there wasn't before, but after meeting me, there will be. With a single glance, my shadow guard produced a pill. Ignoring Lu Che's struggles, he forced it into his mouth and made him swallow. Deadly poison. Without the antidote, he would die within 3 days. Obey my commands, and I'll give you 1 antidote pill daily. I guarantee you won't die. The day of rest ended. Lu Che returned to court. On his very first day as crown prince, he faced impeachment from all the ministers. Because I returned to my family home on my own. The entire capital now knew the crown prince mistreated me, forcing the heaven-chosen maiden to return alone. I discreetly stoked the flames. In no time, the crown prince's reputation was severely tarnished. Whispers that he was unfit for the throne began to spread covertly. Half the court consisted of my father's retainers. Among the rest, many military commanders were loyal to Xiangjing. Gazing at the capital's moon, I sighed inwardly. This drama was about to reach its final curtain. Though it unfolded slightly later than I remembered. The plague still erupted in the city's outskirts. The common folk suffered terribly. The divine physician I presented to my uncle the emperor, along with the supplies I had prepared long ago, proved invaluable at this critical moment. At the height of my fame, the 8th prince died suddenly. The emperor flew into a rage, ordering a thorough investigation. The evidence I had gathered was delivered to my uncle, the emperor, through various channels. The proof was irrefutable. The previous incidents had all been orchestrated by the crown prince. After court, the crown prince Lu Che, who had been under house arrest, stormed directly into my chambers. Chen Jiao. I didn't kill the 8th prince. Why are you framing me? But you did kill the other princes. And lately, you've been acting suspiciously. Lu Che would never admit defeat. Even after poisoning him, I remained vigilant. Sure enough, he exploited the brief stretch of freedom between court and his palace to plant hidden agents. Each day when I took the antidote, I deliberately withheld a small portion. Day after day, he lay dormant, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Unfortunately for him, I caught on early. So I presented him with a grand gift, the death of the 8th prince. The crown prince, accused of murdering his own brother and betraying his wife, became a pariah. Many commoners harbored no loyalty to this crown prince. Yet now, the court held no other eligible princes of age. Many cried out that the Han dynasty was doomed. Master Ziji observed an unusual celestial phenomenon during his nightly observations and entered the palace to report it. Chen Ajiao, the heavenly maiden, was hidden away in obscurity. The gods were enraged. Such a woman of heaven's mandate must guard the court to preserve the realm. The mere suggestion of a woman entering the court sparked heated debate among the people. A heavenly maiden guarding the court, will this not bring the Han dynasty to ruin? Even children on the streets began chanting satirical rhymes. Scholars and poets, generals and warriors each held their own opinion. For a time, the clamor of dissent nearly pierced the heavens. After circling the streets, I knew the matter had finally reached its final stage. That night, I feigned relaxation of my guard. Sure enough, Liu Che led his personal guards into the palace, coercing the emperor to abdicate. When the emperor refused, Liu Che attempted to assassinate him and seize the throne. But I had already placed several skilled operatives with the emperor's uncle, instructing them to monitor Liu Che's every move. We secured the emperor's uncle while simultaneously capturing the crown prince. The prince was immediately deposed and taken away by the eldest princess for punishment. 3 days later, the emperor's uncle summoned me. He produced a sealed letter and handed it to me. "My precious child, you've truly grown up." Such iron-fisted tactics, such meticulous scheming, even my uncle admitted he couldn't match this imperial cunning. I did not accept the letter, for I knew its contents. It detailed every upheaval I had stirred since my rebirth, recorded in meticulous detail. This letter was one I had sent to my uncle, the emperor. Even with every precaution in place, I could not bring myself to point a blood-dripping blade at the man who had cherished me all my life. "Uncle, was Ajiao worth it?" My imperial uncle gazed at me for a long time before finally bursting into laughter. "I have said it before, my precious Jiao deserves the very best this world has to offer. Including the throne." At first, my uncle worried I possessed only iron-fisted tactics but lacked the talent to govern. He intended to personally instruct me in the duties of regency. Yet after several rounds of discussion, he realized my imperial abilities were no less than any of his sons. My Jiao truly possesses extraordinary talent. Hearing my uncle's admiration, I smiled slightly. Talent? With royal blood flowing through my veins, such talent is only natural. But more than that, I grew up on the laps of my emperor grandfather and emperor uncle, who reviewed memorials daily. After their passing, I observed Liu Che governing for over 20 years. I've assimilated the governance wisdom and methods of 3 emperors. Of course I'm capable. But this is not something I can speak of openly. Through my mother and I's persistent pleading, the Empress Dowager gradually accepted my role as heir apparent. Coincidentally, since I assumed regency, my uncle the emperor's health has steadily declined. The Empress Dowager seized the opportunity, urging my mother to join her in persuading him to abdicate, thus hastening his transition to retired emperor. With the divine physician's care, he lived 2 or 3 years longer than in his previous life. After ascending the throne, I visited Liu Che one final time. By then, poisoned, he was already emaciated. Curled on the ground, he stared at me, his fingers still trembling. "Jiao, did you ever truly love me?" His strength was spent. I knelt down, studying his face closely. "Long, long ago, I did. But back then, you were still Liu Ji. If Sister Ajiao marries Jir will build a palace of gold and hide her away." Those were your own words, yet they became the cage that imprisoned me for life. But when you became Liu Che, what reason did I have to still love you? Liu Che looked puzzled at first, then his gaze grew unfocused. As if remembering something, shock and sharpness flashed across his face. By the time he looked at me again, his expression slowly turned self-mocking. He spoke with great effort. "Jiao. It is I. Who has wronged you?" I lowered my gaze for a long time, then finally laughed hollowly. "Who would have thought? The last person standing would be you. But I will never forgive you." Chen Ajiao and Liu Ji fell in love as youths, childhood sweethearts. Yet when Liu Ji became Emperor Liu Che, Chen Ajiao forgot he was an emperor. He was no longer the Jir who silently tolerated her every whim. After ascending the throne, Liu Che also forgot the genuine affection he felt when he first kept her hidden in his golden chamber. Neither of them was at fault. They simply forgot that an emperor must be ruthless. Clothed in the dragon robe, I stepped over Liu Che's gradually cooling corpse and walked steadily toward the exit. I had once been imprisoned within these palace walls. But by severing all ties of affection, I could become the master of this deep palace. The end.